Travel is fatal to prejudice, bigotry, and narrow-mindedness. Mark Twain. Among Us has become quite the hit lately, hasn't it? It is funny how a game as simple as this one can explode to such popularity. How a game that could probably be programmed in a week can combine so many aspects of human life and human psyche. But I have talked about what makes the game so popular and analyzed its philosophy in a previous video already, so feel free to check that one out, because today we won't be focusing on the fun and exciting nature of the game, but rather on a darker lesson one can take away from Among Us. Among Us has a very unique game cycle, one that is repeated again and again until the imposter is eventually kicked out. A cycle that involves a lot of deceiving, gambling, and accusing. Whenever a body is found or an emergency meeting is called, all the players get together to discuss the previous round and all of the things they've been doing. It's here where they start to collect information on the others, information that they can then in turn use to incriminate them in the future. But it is also a moment in the game where jumping to conclusions can be deadly. How often have you played a round of Among Us and were kicked out of the spaceship because others decided to crucify you for the smallest mishaps? How often did it occur to you that you were being metaphorically hanged for basically nothing? Probably more often than you would like to admit, right? Well, those scenarios aren't just annoying, but they can be deadly when overused. If all the crewmates get together and none of them have any evidence to support someone being the imposter, they will start looking for random reasons to kick someone out. Because, well, it might just be the strategic thing to do, right? Regardless of its effectiveness in the actual game, the truth stands that if you start throwing people off the ship because they were standing still and not doing tasks, you'll be sliding down a slippery slope of false morality. Next thing you know, you're voting to kick someone out not because they weren't doing tasks, but rather because they were too quick at doing their tasks. And so it continues, until you have voted every innocent crewmate out and you are the last one standing. No one to share the victory with and no one to share the painful loss with. Only you, on top of the imaginative hill of morality. Not realizing that what you were doing is wrong, and in truth, the only thing supporting you is a bunch of trash.
Here's what I'm gonna say. I don't think we should vote because only one body, and I don't know, but keep an eye on.
Well, it sounds like there's so many people around there.
Well, I want to vote because this is what happens.
Here's where I would like to tie Among Us, a small and simple social deduction game, to cancel culture, a malicious practice that has been ravaging the political landscape for the last couple of years. For everyone who is unaware, cancel culture is a practice in which a group of like-minded people on the internet, mostly on Twitter, come together and try to cancel someone for their views and their beliefs. The tactics used vary from instance to instance. In some cases, people simply go on a tweeting rampage and demand the firing of the person being cancelled. But other times, they will go as far as to dox someone and leak their personal information to the public. Cancel culture is one of those weird phenomena that are hard to accept the existence of, but if you dive a little deeper into it, it makes total sense that humanity ended up here. We as humans, we strive for a meaning in our lives. We used to depend on surviving to give us that meaning. But since the Industrial Revolution, survival has become way too easy for most of the Western civilization. But that didn't change our desire for meaning. We still seek it out every day. But if we fail in finding it in something meaningful, we will resort to looking for it in more stupid and mundane areas. We will start digging up decades-old tweets from someone and then demand their apology for it because it's out of place and insulting for the current era. And then, of course, because what we're doing is completely meaningless, the apology won't be enough. We'll demand more. We'll demand the complete destruction of that individual's life until we find a new target. And why? Well, isn't it obvious? Because it's a righteous thing to do, isn't it? Because thinking that you are morally right and that gives you the right to destroy someone else's life, that is righteous, isn't it? No, of course it isn't. It's just simply evil.
Dude, I honestly think it's fruit, dude. I honestly think it's fruit.
No, I don't think so. There's no way it's fruit. There's no way. I mean, if it's fruit, that's magical.
Now, how do we tie all of this back to Among Us? Well, with one simple question, really. Have you ever hesitated to tell the truth in a meeting because you were afraid that may implicate you even though you were innocent? And the answer to my question is probably yes. Regardless of whether or not you were the imposter, even as a crewmate, sometimes telling the truth can be a dangerous thing to do if you are risking to be thrown out. And the same applies to real life as well. We humans, we are social beings. Most of us like to be with others of our kind. We don't like to be detached from others because, well, it's very dangerous to be alone. And so, if you're on Twitter or anywhere else on the web for that matter, you might just be too afraid to tell the truth because you've seen others being kicked out and denigrated for doing the same. And this is exactly why cancel culture can be so effective. You only have to slander a few people to set up an example. From that point on, everyone else will just stay in line like little sheep because they're afraid. And they do have every right to be. But this cannot be the end game. Because cancel culture doesn't just make it incredibly hard to tell the truth when it's politically incorrect, but it also makes it nearly impossible to disavow bad opinions. It never solves anything, it will only worsen our lives, and it will only divide us even further. Let's say you see a racist on Twitter talking about the superiority of his race. If cancel culture gets his way, that person gets kicked out of Twitter and then, problem solved, right? No, of course not. The only thing you truly accomplish is the fact that you are now blind to his actions and his thinking. He will find people that think like him. He will find the rest that has been kicked out as well. And together they will simply strengthen their belief in racism because no one is opposing them. Becoming true radicals. Yes, racists are people with awful opinions, but kicking them out of the ship because of it will only make things worse. Rather, sit down and take the time to explain to them why they're wrong. You may think that it's a useless endeavor, but if Daryl Davis was able to convert over 200 KKK members away from the Klan and racism, then the least we can do is try. And racism is not the only problematic opinion out there. Whatever it is, be it racism, eugenics, communism, socialism, whichever one it is, try and talk to people instead of simply voting them out. Because you might just change their minds, which will work out in your favor in the future. Or of course, you might just realize that you were in the wrong and that the truth lies somewhere else. Not necessarily with them, but not with you either. We need to be more open to different opinions. Just like Mark Twain said in the beginning. Through travel, through meeting other people, and through listening to other opinions, you can defeat prejudice, bigotry, and ignorance. Through listening to others, you can be certain that you'll find the truth. If you throw out every opposing opinion, you'll trap yourself in your own individual thought prison. Thanks for watching, guys. Feel free to subscribe and check out one of my previous videos right here. This channel is all about looking at video games and pop culture from a different perspective, about digging deeper into the meaning of life and how we can get there with video games, movies, and TV shows. And if you'd like to chat or just play some games together, make sure to join our Discord server in the description. So if that interests you, maybe subscribe, maybe hit the bell to be notified. What about that, huh? Yeah? Okay, good. See ya!